I remember her birthday used to mean something. The first few years I'd plan weeks ahead. Surprise dinners, flowers, a handwritten card tucked under her pillow. Sarah used to light up when she saw me walk in with that nervous grin, trying to hide a cake behind my back. But that was years ago. This year felt different. She'd been quieter for months, speaking less, scrolling more. Most nights she'd curl up on her side of the bed, the glow from her phone cutting a line between us like a wall of light. I'd reach over sometimes, brush my hand against her shoulder, but she'd shift away gently, not angry, just distant. That's somehow worse. A week before her birthday, I asked casually over dinner, "So what do you want this year? Maybe that spa you liked in Portland?" She didn't even look up from her salad. Just said flatly, "Leave me alone." I laughed at first. Thought she was joking. "Seriously," I said. "You deserve something nice." She put down her fork, looked me straight in the eyes and said, "Ethan, I mean it. Leave me alone." There wasn't anger in her voice, just exhaustion. Like she'd been holding her breath in this marriage for years and finally decided to exhale. That night I couldn't sleep. The phrase looped in my head, playing over the sound of her soft breathing beside me. "Leave me alone." I kept wondering if it was a plea or a test. We'd been married for 10 years. We'd weathered layoffs, miscarriages, bad investments, and late-night arguments about bills and forgotten anniversaries. I thought that meant something, that we'd built a foundation sturdy enough to handle silence. But silence has a way of eroding things faster than words ever could. The next morning she was humming in the kitchen, making coffee like nothing had happened. She asked if I wanted some, and I just said, "No thanks." My voice sounded smaller than I wanted it to. I watched her pour the coffee into her favorite mug, the one that said, "Nevertheless, she persisted." I bought it for her when she got promoted at work 2 years ago. Back then, she kissed me and said, "You always believe in me." Now, she didn't even notice me watching her. When she left for work, I sat at the kitchen table for a long time, staring at that mug, half wishing it would say something back. Around noon, I opened my laptop and searched for flights. I didn't even know where I wanted to go. I just typed anywhere. The site showed a dozen cities I'd never been to. Boise, Austin, Charlotte. It didn't matter. It wasn't about running away. It was about listening, but really listening for the first time. She said she wanted space, and maybe for once I needed to respect that without turning it into an argument or a gesture. I booked a one-way ticket to Denver. I had an old friend there, someone who once told me, "If you ever need to disappear without disappearing, come here." I packed a small bag and just clothes, my wallet, and the leather watch she gave me on our 5th anniversary. I didn't know why I took it. Maybe I needed a reminder that once upon a time she wanted me around. When she came home that evening, I was still there. I didn't say anything at first. She looked tired, the kind of tired that no nap or vacation could fix. I asked softly, "You still want to be left alone?" She hesitated, maybe realizing how final those words could sound. Then she nodded. "Yeah, I think I do." I nodded too. Not angry, not broken, just done pretending. That night, I slept on the couch. I stared at the ceiling, tracing patterns in the shadows, and thought about how love doesn't die in one big moment. It just fades unnoticed through 1,000 small ones, like leaving the lights on until the bulb burns out. The next morning before sunrise, I left a note on the counter. It said, "Happy birthday, Sarah. You got what you wanted." I locked the door behind me, dropped the keys in the mailbox, and walked toward the airport shuttle stop. I didn't look back. I landed in Denver before noon. The air felt sharper there, thinner, like the altitude itself was asking if I really belonged. My friend Daniel picked me up from the airport. We hadn't talked in years, but he didn't ask questions. He just said, "You look like a man who finally took his own advice." I laughed, but it came out hollow. He had a small cabin an hour outside the city. It wasn't fancy, a single room with a stove, a sagging couch, and a deck that faced the mountains. That first night I sat out there with a beer and just listened to the wind. No buzzing phone. No forced conversation. No quiet resentment echoing between walls. Just peace. But peace is a strange thing. When you've lived with noise for so long, silence feels like punishment. I kept checking my phone, expecting a message. "Where did you go? Can we talk?" Nothing. By the second day, I stopped checking. I went for walks along the dirt roads. watched the light change on the snow caps, and thought about all the ways love turns into habit. How you can share a home, a bed, a name, and still become strangers living parallel lives. I replayed every moment from that dinner. Her eyes, her tone, the exact way she said, "Leave me alone." Maybe she didn't mean forever. Maybe she meant for now. But I realized something I'd ignored for years. Even if she changed her mind tomorrow, I couldn't go back to being the man who waited to be wanted. There's a kind of quiet you reach when you finally stopped begging to be understood. It's not peace at first, it's grief disguised as relief. A week passed. Still no message. Then one morning I opened my email and saw her name. Just one line in the subject, "You really left?" The body was empty. No greeting, no anger, no apology. Just that question. I stared at it for a long time before replying. I wrote, "You asked me what you wanted for your birthday." I listened. I didn't send it right away. I read it 10 times, wondering if it was cruel. But it wasn't. It was honest. I hit send, she replied hours later. "I didn't think you'd actually go." That made me smile. Not out of spite, but understanding. For years, she'd been testing how far she could push before I'd break. I never did. I bent, folded, forgave, adjusted. But that morning I realized she never wanted a man who stayed no matter what. She wanted a man who respected himself enough to leave when it was time. I spent another month in Colorado. Daniel said I could stay as long as I needed. Some days I helped him fix things around the property. Other days I just watched the sunrise, notebook in hand, trying to remember who I was before I became half of a broken pair. Eventually, Sarah stopped emailing. Maybe she found someone new. Maybe she realized what she'd lost. Or maybe she was relieved that I finally gave her what she asked for. The truth is, it doesn't matter anymore, because somewhere between the mountain air and the silence, I stopped waiting for closure. One evening, I stood on the deck watching the sun melt into the horizon and said out loud, "Happy late birthday, Sarah." It wasn't bitterness, and it was gratitude. She'd freed me without even meaning to. A few months later, I found a small job in town. Construction work, nothing glamorous. It felt good to build something that would actually stand when I walked away. Sometimes after a long day, I'd sit by the window of the diner and watch couples pass by. I didn't hate them. I didn't envy them either. I just hoped they remembered to talk before the silence moved in. I still think about her sometimes. Not the way she left, but the way she laughed before all this. The way she used to rest her head on my shoulder and hum songs without words. That version of us deserves to be remembered kindly, even if it didn't survive. People say love is about giving someone everything they want, but that's not true. Love is giving them what they ask for, even when it breaks you. She said, "Leave me alone." So I did, and maybe, just maybe, that was the first time I ever truly loved her. By finally letting her have her peace and finding mine in the process.